Hey guys, it's Alex. Been a while since we've done one of these fireside chats. I wanted to talk to you guys today about a lot of people asking me about becoming a tuner and becoming a calibration specialist, whatever you want to call it. And I thought I'd take a little time before I start working on the cars again to talk about my experiences with being a remote tuner and being a in-person tuner and being on the basically service advisor, service writer side of things when it comes to tuning. I've done all three. I've facilitated the tuning, I've done the tuning remotely, and I've done the tuning on a dyno. Now, I'm on the lucky side. Not a lot of people have the ability to do all three. A lot of people either do one or the other, and they only know what they know, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what are the reasons that you want to get into tuning? Like if you're looking to get into tuning to be around horsepower, to be around cars, and you can manipulate the computer to maximize or optimize the calibration, and you're a data-driven person, I think that's a very good way of thinking and getting into the field. But you got to think of the business aspect too. And let's talk about the business aspect, because a lot of people don't even understand how the business aspect of tuning works. So I work for a company that was already set up before I got there. Lund Racing already had orders coming in, orders going out. So that's the first thing I thought that tuning was initially. I used to see guys on a dyno and I would think, all right, that's cool, but it looks like a lot of work. And let's be honest, it is. And when I got into tuning, that was my first experience with tuning. I'm lying. Before that, I was facilitating the tuning. I worked for a hot rod company in Houston, and I would be the guy data logging, uploading, downloading, just communicating with the tuner back and forth. So I knew the other end of things, and I knew how to speak to the person once I got onto the tuning side of things when they were facilitating the tuning. So it's very difficult sometimes to get a car done quickly if there are mechanical issues, obviously. So if you're facilitating the tuning but not doing the physical work on the car, that's another layer you have to consider. So let's not get into the weeds a little too much. Let's keep this video simple. If you want to work in the tuning capacity, whereas you are not involved with vehicles, it's mostly data-driven, encrypting, drawing files, getting a PCM, drawing it out based on some really nice software to allocate and index everything, and that's fine. That's not tuning to me. That's more like programming, or even, I don't even want to say coding, but it's more of like a fact-finding mission than tuning. People that, in my opinion, index files don't necessarily know much about tuning. They know what the nomenclature is, they know what this is called and that's called, but how it affects the vehicle directly typically can't be done just by indexing this and that. I mean, some people have the C file and the A2L, and then they can sort of understand what's happening, but unless you apply it to a vehicle, in my opinion, you're only seeing half the story. Not an indictment against people like that. It's just that they're not tuners, just like tuners aren't programmers. Same thing. So let's talk about dyno tuning. Let's say you want a dyno tune and you think the only way a car should be tuned is on a dyno, and there's nothing wrong with that, but ultimately I think that you baseline and get the data right on the dyno, then you take it to the track, and that's where the rubber meets the road, literally. But how can you make money, and how much money do you want to make in tuning? Like, how much do you want to take home in tuning? What is the ultimate goal when it comes to making money tuning, right? I work for a company that has that all set up for me, and all I have to do is fill orders. So I am less of a tuner and more of a file sharer and data log reviewer, and I do that back and forth. You can call it tuning. I call it something else. I call it more like file sharing, because I'm not physically making the base file. I'm not physically doing that stuff. I'm more giving you like a template and saying, hey, this template works 100% of the time. So if there's a variable, it's on your end. And they go, oh, okay, so we can call it tuning if we want, but it's remote tuning. But if you're on a dyno, what are the pitfalls of owning a dyno and doing dyno tuning only? Well, it depends on your thought process. Do you want to make base files for very common setups that you have? Or do you want to make bone stock fresh files? Each car gets its own specific, you start from absolute nothing, you don't have value files, you don't have templates, you don't have anything. You are literally there to make it from scratch. Okay, well, you're going to make less money that way. I can guarantee you that. Because unless that dyno is rolling, it's not making money. So if you get let's say an LS3 based vehicle, you put it on the dyno and you start with the factory calibration, and you don't already have things that can go in there and that are vetted, let's say a MAF curve, let's say an injector data. I'm sure there's plenty of ways of importing injector data and MAF curves, but some people literally like to start from scratch, and that's fine, but those people are less likely to be successful. If you have vetted base files and you can start with a template on a car that is a known template, well, then you can at least say the tune's not the issue, the build is the issue. That's the other thing. I would say 50 to 60% of the cars that show up to a dyno are not dyno ready. Now, people that own dynos know exactly what I'm talking about. They go, well, I've had to find vacuum leaks. I've had to play with the wiring on the fuel system because it wasn't set up properly. They said 3 pumps were hot, 1 pump was hot. They said it had an adequate fuel system for 1,000. It doesn't even have enough fuel system for 600 on pump gas. So you're going to have to deal with those issues, and that gobbles up the biggest moneymaker, and it is time. 100% of the time, the amount of time you're diagnosing problems and stuff like that, are you making money? Because what happens, especially with the internet and everyone else that knows everything about dyno tuning, meanwhile they don't even own a hot rod, is this. They end up saying, well, it shouldn't cost more than $600 to dyno tune a car. My buddy could do it for $750, and you're going to have to compete with that. People like Rami Zaidan, he uses the dyno to facilitate his builds. So he doesn't have the dyno to make money. The way he does make money on the dyno is he rents it out. He has a bunch of other hot rod shops or tuners that go all over the place, traveling tuners. That's the third thing I'm going to talk about. People that go to an area, they say, hey, I'm going to be in your neck of the woods. I'm a specialist in this platform, and I'm going to go ahead and be in your area, so be on the lookout. Get with me, put a deposit down, and we'll get your car tuned. So people like a Rami or other shops that make money on dynos, because it's very hard to make money on a dyno unless it's constantly rolling, is it gets rented out to other tuners to show up with the platform they're familiar with and tune that all day. Typically, if you have a Honda guy, he'll be there with 6 or 7 Hondas for a couple of days. If you have a Ford guy, a Ford Lightning guy, a 2-valve, 3-valve Cobra guy, they can be there for a little bit depending on how many cars show up. Typically, there aren't a lot of traveling Coyote tuners. Let's be honest, that the way the cars are set up is they can be tuned remotely to within 0.0005% efficiency than you would have on a dyno. Okay, now let's talk about traveling, right? What kind of life do you want to live? If you want to get into tuning, what kind of life do you want to live? Do you want to be on the road all the time? Because let's say you have made a name for yourself. You build a car, it runs a good number, you've gotten really good with a platform. Well, what if you live in the middle of nowhere? Nobody's looking to come to you to dyno tune the car. Say you live in Montana and nobody's looking to drive to Montana to dyno tune because you have the best whatever platform vehicle. Well, you're either going to try to offer remote tuning, or if you're not down with the remote tuning stuff, you're going to have to travel. And a lot of tuners that I know go to Dubai, they go to the United Arab Emirates, they go over there to make some good money. Saudi, to make some good money tuning. There's a lot of money over there, a lot of tuning opportunity, but you have to travel. Sometimes you set up a dyno day on a dyno that you know, or guy's dyno that you know. So you have to travel to it, rent it out for a couple of days. He makes the money on the rental, and you do all the dyno tuning you can, understanding that about 50 to 60% of the cars that show up to the dyno are not dyno ready. You have to do mechanical work, and you have to charge accordingly. So I just wanted to make a quick video as to give you guys kind of like a sneak peek as to tuning, how it works, what kind of tuning do you even want to get into it. A lot of people look at it from the outside and all they see is the clip of the car making the pull, and they think that's it. No, there's a lot of work involved on a dyno tuning. I did it for 2 or 3 years at my previous job. I don't want to do it ever again as a business. The reason I own my own is for my builds, and you barely see it rolling. I never bought that thing as an investment opportunity. I bought it to have it so that in the event that I get a building, I can dyno tune my own stuff for content. Let's be honest, it's just mostly for content and to verify that everything I'm doing was correct. And now I have ventured into working on, working on my own vehicles. So now that is another layer of or skill set that I'm going to get into, because I want to verify that everything that was done to the car was done properly, and that's just part of the game. So I'm taking full control of everything that I own. So when it comes to tuning, you're going to have to decide. You're going to want to work for a company that does remote tuning, or remote tune yourself. You want to travel to tune, or do you want to own a dyno and deal with the pros and cons of dyno tuning each vehicle and potentially working on it to fix any issues, because they told you it was dyno ready, but it has vacuum leaks, fuel delivery issues, or ignition issues. So that's something to look out for. Just wanted to give you a little fireside chat. Haven't done one of these in a while, and I'll try to bring you guys more content as I come across it. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you later.